everyone, this is Darlene from livelovecards.com, and I'm here to show you how to make this cute snowman waterfall photo card. You just pull the tab and the layers of the snowman just flip over to show your message, and then at the end you can have your holiday family photo. So let's get started. I'm going to be using the Simon Says stamp stitched ovals. I'm using the outer 3 ovals. And I'm going to show you how you can cut all these pieces from one piece of 8.5 by 11 white cardstock. I'm using Nina Solar White. This is my 5 by 7 sheet. This is my 10-inch by 1.5-inch sheet. And then I've got my ovals, which I can then cut from the remaining cardstock on this piece of paper. And this card is going to be 5 by 7 in the end. And so I've also cut a piece of Simon Says stamp surf blue paper in 5 by 7. Now I also need to cut out my photo, which is going to be cut out using the Sizzix ovals. I didn't want stitching on it, and I wanted it to be able to fit inside the bottom third of my snowman. So I'm going to just center it around the part of my photo I want, and I'll run it through my Big Shot. And for his arms, I'm using this Songbird branch die, and you can use pretty much any branch die, or you can cut your own. And the nose I'm actually cutting out with scissors by hand, just these little noses. And so I'm actually making 40 of these cards. So I'm cutting out all my pieces in an assembly line once I get to working on these. So I'm going to take my 10-inch by 1.5-inch sheet, and I'm going to score it at 6 1/4. And then I'm going to flip it over because my scoreboard is a mini scoreboard. And I'm going to score it again at 1.5. And then I'm going to go from that point 1 1/8. And I'm going to score it again. And this is going to be my pull tab. So when I fold it, I'm folding it all to the inside. So I'm going to fold that first score over, and I'm going to really use my bone folder to get a nice crisp fold, and then I'll fold it on that second score and then on the third one, so everything kind of curls up to make a circle. You can see how it all kind of rolls to the center. Alright, so the next step is to create the background. So I've got this swirly, whimsical background for snow, and what I like to do with these background stamps is I put them on an acrylic block, and then I flip it over and I actually stamp it upside down. So I'm going to take my white ink and my surf blue 5 by 7 sheet, and I'm actually going to measure 2 1/4 inches from the bottom. And the reason why I'm doing this is because this is 5 by 7, my stamp is 6 by 6, so I'm going to need to stamp it twice. And the 2 1/4 mark from the bottom is where the widest part of my snowman is. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. I'll show you how it all fits together. But I'm going to ink up my stamp. I'm using some Hero Arts White Unicorn ink. And then I'm going to take my surf blue piece and I'm going to flip it over so I can see the pencil marks that I just made. That's going to be the back of the card. And I'll line up those pencil marks at the very bottom of my cardstock. And so I put 2 of them, one on either side, so it'd be easy to line up. And I like to take a piece of scratch paper, I'll put it on top and really rub my fingers all over the whole surface to make sure I get really good coverage. Alright, now I've got the top part done, and so I'm going to take my stamp again, I'm going to re-ink it. And you know, white ink is kind of hard to clean off a stamp, so I'm definitely going to do all 40 of these at once. So I'll just do all my surf blue pieces and get that all done first. Anyway, so now I'm going to take it, I'm going to flip it back over so I could see my pencil lines again. And I'm going to line it up now at the top, so I get the bottom portion of my cardstock stamped. And so just make sure those pencil lines line up at the top the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be covering most of it up, which is why I'm strategically locating it at this place. So I'm going to put my scratch sheet on top. I'm going to rub it with my fingers and make sure I get good coverage. So when I see this, you'll notice it's not perfect. There's a little bit of an overlap, but it's not a big deal. This is where the widest part of my snowman is. So I'm going to take my bottom part of the snowman and cover it up here so you can see this is where it's going to go, so you're barely going to see that line. For the top and middle parts of my snowman, I went through my stash to find the right shapes that I needed, and I found this circle in a favorite flower stamp set, and then I also found a smaller circle for the eyes, and I found a line for the mouth, and then I found this line of stars for the buttons in this Lawn Fawn set called Birthday Tags. So I'm going to take some sea glass, which is a little bit lighter than surf blue. I wanted just some light blue eyes, and I'm going to stamp my eyes with the favorite flowers circle. And then I'll take my VersaFine ink and I'm going to stamp the middle of the eye with some black. And again, I would just go through your stamps to find these shapes. I'm sure you'll be able to find these small stamps. And I took that line and I formed it in the shape of a smile, and I'm stamping that now on my top snowman to make his mouth. And finally the buttons on the middle snowman piece. I'm making them a little lower because the head is going to cover it up a little. To adhere the nose, I'm going to first put it in these tweezers, and then I'll put some of my 2A glue pen. It's just a pen that has glue in it. It's a very precise application of glue. I love this. And that way my fingers don't get in the way and I can see exactly where the nose is going to end up. And I'll just put it in place and press it down with my fingers. I wanted to add something fun to the top, so I chose this bird from the Lawn Fawn Love You S'more set, and I'm going to be stamping it in some Memento Tuxedo Black ink and coloring it with Copics. And because the area is so small, I decided to just use 2 shades of red, and I've got a dark one, R29, and a light one, R22. And I'm just going to color my shadow areas as well as the wing in my R29. And then I'm going to grab my R22 and color the rest of the bird. I'm going to try to blend it a little bit, but because these colors are too far apart, it's going to be too hard to blend them. But I'm going to show you an easy way to make this work with just 2 colors, a light and a dark. So once I get all that covered, I'm going to take my R29 and I'm going to color some of it onto my craft mat. So this is R29. Then I'm going to take my R22 and I'm going to pick up some of that R29, and I'll start in the area where I've already put down the R29, and I'm going to color and blend it outward. So the first thing that's coming out of my R22 is actually R29, but then as I continue to color, it fades out from the R29 back into the R22. So this is a great way to stretch your Copic so that you only have to use 2 colors but get a really nice blend. And as you can see, to get that R29 off the R22, all I have to do is color on my cardstock. And now I'm going to take that Y17 and just do a quick color of his beak, and then I'll clean off my craft mat. Because these markers are alcohol based, you can just use an alcohol pad, which you can get from the drugstore, and it comes right up. And then I just grab a baby wipe and I just clean off that alcohol just to finish it off. And I don't have the dies for this set. There are dies, and if you're going to make a lot of these, maybe it does make sense to get the dies too, but I'm going to cut mine out with a scissor. And now it's ready to assemble the snowman. First I have to put my photo on the bottom third of him, and so I'm just going to use my ATG tape runner to place that in the center. And then I'm going to grab that 10.5 by 1.5 sheet that I had scored and folded, and I'm going to make sure the short side is on the top. And now I'm going to take my tape runner and I'm going to liberally cover this with tape. I'm going to put about 3 different runs on each one of these segments, so you can see that. And then it's really easy to assemble. I'm just going to take this bottom piece first, and I'm going to line up the center at the top with that first score line. You don't want to cover the score line, you want to be just below the score line. Then I'll put that second one in just below the score line, and then finally the third one in just below the fold. And I didn't really like how that was square at the top, so you can just go ahead and trim that off. I took a scissor and I just curved it on either side, and it works out fine as long as you leave enough to make sure that it doesn't fall apart. I left, I want to say, probably 3/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/2 inch at the top that was completely flat. For the sentiment, you can add any sentiment that has 2 parts. I found this Sending Holiday Wishes from the Holiday Envelope Sentiment set by Simon Says Stamp. You need 2 parts because one will go on the head of the snowman, and then the next one will go on the middle part. And I'm going to be stamping them in pigment inks because I want to make sure, sometimes dye inks might seep through the paper a little bit more than you like, and you might see them on the other side. So I want to make sure I didn't have that problem. So I'm going to stamp my Sending in VersaFine Black Onyx ink, and then Holiday Wishes I'm going to stamp in Memento Luxe Love Letter ink, which is a really pretty, bright, vibrant red color. So I'm going to stamp that right in the middle on the underside of the middle part of the snowman. I don't have a stamp that says pull, So I just wrote pull in my Copic multiliner, which is a very fine tip pen. It comes out really nice. But if you have a stamp, even better, you can just stamp that at the bottom because I think the recipient is going to need a little bit of instruction. So after that's done, you can take some Scotch foam tape or any kind of dimensional tape. I'm just ripping off a couple of rectangles and I'm putting them as low as I can on the bottom part of the snowman, right next to the pull tab, but not touching the pull tab. So I'll take that release paper off, and then I'm going to center it right on that surf blue 5x7 cardstock that we stamped with the snow swirls. And you'll see again that the bottom part of the snowman covers that line that I got from stamping it twice. And I moved my bird up there so I can kind of make sure I had enough room to add him to the top. So when you pull it, you'll see the first sentiment and the second sentiment. And it just slides right back up. So everything's working. So for my bird, I'm going to use my 2A glue pen again and my tweezers, just like I did with the nose. And I'm going to place him at the top. And because I cut off his legs, I went ahead and added them back in with my Copic marker. For the branch arms, I'm going to add some adhesive to the very bottom where it's going to adhere to the snowman. And I'll place that on there and press it down with my finger. And make sure it doesn't hang off the edge of the card. And then I'll do the same thing with his other arm. And now these arms can't go with us in the waterfall, so they're going to have to be chopped off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scissor and I'll snip it right there at the edge on both of them. And then I'm going to put them back, but I'm going to glue them to the card base. So when it's all fully unfolded, you'll see the arms attached to the snowman, and then when the waterfall pulls out, they'll stay on the card base. So again, I'm using my tweezers so I can place them easily and just make sure they're lined up and press them down. Now since my card doesn't fold, I wanted a little bit more sturdiness to it, so I'm adding this Nina cardstock to the back. So I'm just going to put some tape runner on my surf blue piece. And then my little trick for lining things up is my MISTI. So I'm going to put my white cardstock down first in the lower left-hand corner, make sure it's nice and snug in there. And then I'm going to place my blue piece in the corner as well. And as soon as I feel it hit the corner, I'm going to press down on the white cardstock. This is a great way to get your panels lined up perfectly. And finally, I'm going to add a little something to the pull-out tab. When I actually create these cards, I'll probably put who they're to and the from on this tab. I'm just going to do the from for now, just to let you know that you can personalize the bottom here. I'm just going to put our names, and I always like to put the ages of my children as well. So that will get hidden, so push it back up, and it'll only show as they're pulling it down. So anyway, that is the card. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to make 40 of these, as I said. I don't think it's going to be that hard if I assembly line all this, do all my cutting, do all my stamping, and it'll be fun. It's kind of my little gift to everybody who receives it this year. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.